Who knew the writers at The Onion dabbled in fortune-telling? Get ready to shield your eyes from Ted Cruz's close-up as we examine the satirical publication's psychic abilities. And remember, it's not a joke if it comes true. Breaking news: cigarettes are bad for you, and in July 2000, a Florida jury decided that tobacco companies should be held responsible for knowing this and promoting their product anyway. The landmark decision not only resulted in over $145 billion in damages for the plaintiffs of the class action lawsuits, but also an article idea for The Onion writers. 2 weeks after the ruling, The Onion ran the story "Hershey's ordered to pay obese Americans $135 billion," presenting a world in which America's biggest chocolate bar company was found guilty of knowingly promoting delicious but unhealthy products. Over a decade later, in a case of life imitating art imitating life, Ferrero effectively lost a class action lawsuit using this logic. In 2012, Athena Hohenberg initiated the suit when she discovered that Ferrero's flagship product Nutella was chock full of sugar.
That's a lot of sugar. So basically, I'm giving a chocolate bar to my son for breakfast.
Hohenberg's attorneys posited that Ferrero's advertising and marketing materials suggested that Nutella was a healthy and wholesome food, which it really wasn't. In the end, Hohenberg got a sweet payday when the Italian food manufacturer agreed to pay plaintiffs $3.5 million. Piracy was all the rage in the early 2000s. Not the swashbuckling adventures of the high seas types of piracy, but the kind where people sat at their computers and got free music from file-sharing services like Napster. With the morality of the sites becoming a popular topic on the news, The Onion ran an article in 2002 headlined, "RIAA Sues Radio Stations for Giving Away Free Music." In the article, the Recording Industry Association of America felt that they were being cheated out of its profits from radio stations playing their music and decided to sue them for piracy. Apparently, someone at the RIAA who doesn't understand satire read the article and thought it was a good idea. In 2008, the RIAA condemned radio station broadcasts as a form of piracy and demanded that they pay royalties to continue playing their music. The National Association of Broadcasters disagreed, and while the sides argued, the writers at The Onion chalked up another future-predicting victory. This accurate prediction of the future came to us in video form. In 2008, Onion News Network produced a human interest feature about a tourist museum that recreated an archaic form of entertainment for ancient people, renting a physical copy of a movie at something called a video store.
Tour is amazing. It's like stepping into a time machine. It's hard to believe that people live this way.
Before Netflix was streaming media directly into our homes, they were revolutionizing the video industry with the cutting-edge technology of mailing DVDs to people. That was the beginning of the end of physical video stores, including industry dominator Blockbuster, who filed for bankruptcy in 2010. As of 2025, only one Blockbuster video remains, and it's become a tourist attraction. Thousands of daily visitors nostalgically wander the aisles and take in the rough conditions that pioneers of the 90s and 2000s had to deal with. The Living Museum was even the subject of its own documentary, a movie you can stream whenever you're feeling nostalgic. It may come as a shock to some, but many people aren't actually fans of billionaires. It's not a recent phenomenon either. In 1996, The Onion turned that idea on its head and ran an article with the headline, "Billionaires Demand More Federal Scrutiny." The satirical piece supposed that a group of the United States' wealthiest individuals testified before Congress, asking for the government to step in and stop letting them exploit the system for their own gain. The publication quoted the fictional and delightfully named tycoon J. Wellington French as saying, "In addition to millions in federal tax write-offs, we have been the beneficiaries of cushy tax-deferred annuities. We are here today to stand up and finally say enough." All of this is funny because the thought of an uber-wealthy person demanding to give away more of their wealth is typically a sad pipe dream. But it's not unheard of. Microsoft founder Bill Gates is among the wealthiest people in American history, and in the 2010s he spoke up and told the government that he had way too much money. In 2018, he told CNN, "I need to pay higher taxes. I've paid more taxes, over $10 billion than anyone else, but the government should require people in my position to pay significantly higher taxes." Gates isn't alone among his billionaire brethren. Warren Buffett has also spoken out about the lack of taxation on the uber-rich.
But I would say that the wealthy are definitely undertaxed relative to the general population.
Well, it may provide people a slight bit of comfort to know that there are a couple billionaires willing to admit that they're getting off easy. The fact remains that expecting the obscenely wealthy to do the right thing is a laughable concept. In 2015, Texas Senator Ted Cruz announced his intention to pursue the Republican nomination for President of the United States in the upcoming federal election. He had one specific problem to deal with, however, namely that people didn't like him.
The body language is odd. He doesn't know what to do with his hands. He hasn't fixed that strange O that he makes with his mouth.
With a nod to the generalized opinion of Cruz at the time, The Onion announced the senator's presidential candidacy with the headline, "Time Magazine subscribers brace for inevitable issue with close-up of Ted Cruz's face." In the world of the article, fictional Time reader Susan Bartlett is quoted as saying, "I don't know whether it will be next week or 10 months from now, but I know that sooner or later I'll open the mailbox and find that face staring at me." Just days after The Onion ran its Cruz story, Time got up close and personal with Cruz, unironically slapping a tight close-up of the senator on its cover. As of now, there's been no follow-up on if Susan Bartlett was ever able to recover. In 2015, President Barack Obama's administration brokered a deal with Iran, which allowed the Middle Eastern nation to develop a nuclear power program. The US and Iranian governments have traditionally not been the closest of allies, unlike the strong arrangement between the US and Israel. Meanwhile, Israel and Iran have been in a state of intense conflict for more than 40 years. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was concerned by the US-Iran agreement, and in July 2015, he spoke about it with Obama. To assuage his fears, the president reportedly offered the Israeli Prime Minister an extensive upgrade to the Israel Defense Forces, and a deal was reached in 2016. Literally a day before news of the phone call broke, The Onion ran a story with the headline, "US Soothes Upset Netanyahu with Shipment of Ballistic Missiles." They quoted fictional State Department spokesperson Daniel Goldman as saying, "Bibi always gets a little cranky when he sees us talking to Iran, but a few dozen short-range surface-to-surface missiles usually cheer him right up." How on earth could the writers at The Onion have known that Donald Trump was the kind of guy who would be careless about guarding national secrets? In March 2017, early on in Trump's first term as president, the publication wrote a story featuring the headline, "Mar-a-Lago assistant manager wondering if anyone coming to collect nuclear briefcase from Lost and Found." The article never mentions Trump by name, so they could claim that they weren't talking about the dude responsible for leaving classified nuclear documents at his Florida resort. They'd be lying, of course, but they could claim it. While the nuclear briefcase was never abandoned at Mar-a-Lago, sensitive materials, including information relating to the federal government's nuclear weapons, were discovered at the resort. Found after Trump left office in 2021, the documents were kept in cardboard storage boxes at Mar-a-Lago, often in rooms accessible to the public. Was it a case of the Onion writers being struck by a vision of the future? Or does Trump seem like the kind of guy to keep secret documents about national security next to the toilet? That's for you to decide. Even decades after the United States led a military coalition into Afghanistan, they still hadn't accomplished their mission of rooting out al-Qaeda, no matter what their banners may have said. Due to various political and military issues, experts were calling the war in Afghanistan tough to win by 2011, and saying that the US military should carefully withdraw. In the wake of such talk, The Onion ran a piece titled, "US Quietly Slips Out of Afghanistan in Dead of Night." According to the article, military commanders pulled out the entire 100,000-person contingent, leaving a note at their former headquarters at Bagram Airfield in Kabul that read, "By the time you read this, we will be gone. We regret any pain this may cause you, but this was something we needed to do." It took another 10 years, but the American military did leave Afghanistan, and it somehow is even worse than how it happened in the article. Trump's first administration negotiated an exit in February 2020, with a full withdrawal date of May 1st, 2021. When Joe Biden became president, he pushed back that target to August 2021. But over the 4th of July weekend, the entire personnel at Bagram Airfield in Kabul left under the darkness of night. The move wasn't announced until after it happened, and the few troops remaining in Kabul left at the end of August. During his first term, it sure felt like President Obama's political opponents automatically blocked any legislation he proposed. The Onion picked up on that sentiment in 2011 when it ran an article with the headline, "Republicans Vote to Repeal Obama-Backed Bill That Would Destroy Asteroid Headed for Earth." The piece imagines that every Republican in the House of Representatives worked to strike down a measure that would pay for the technology necessary to stop an asteroid on its way to annihilate Earth. The article's real-life counterpart wasn't nearly as dire, but it was still pretty dumb. In 2013, Obama advocated for a bill that would pay for a NASA project to send an unmanned craft into space to latch onto an asteroid and pull it close enough to Earth to allow scientists to study it. The legislation died in a House of Representatives committee, with all 22 appointed Republicans voting to stay in the dark about dangerous space rocks.
While the World Wide Web was still growing in 2000, The Onion ran a prophetic piece about an office manager who uses the internet for everything from movie times to recipes. With that, The Onion had already accurately anticipated the future with our growing dependence on online information and constant fact-checking. It sure seemed funny at the time.
I don't do like the emails.
The emails? It's email. It's just email. Who doesn't have the internet in this day and age?
The Onion's 2004 article on advances in razor technology lampoons the goofiest conventions of the competitive razor market, with Gillette's one-upping a rival competitor by adding a fifth blade to their razor. Just a year later, Gillette actually announced their intent to add a fifth blade, proving that the shaving industry is beyond parody.
You can't keep this up! Don't you know what's gonna happen? Every time you shave it, it's gonna come in thicker and fuller and darker!
Ever since we discovered that we can watch TV on our computers, companies have scrambled to hop on the bandwagon to provide content and keep us forever in our chairs. Even a few surprising parties have gotten into the mix. Even massive online retailer Overstock.com checked out the growing scene in 2015, in a move that few saw coming, aside from The Onion, of course, who predicted it 2 years earlier. Without a recent update on Overstock's dreams of keeping tragedy next to the towels and comedy beneath carpets, it all might have just been a pipe dream. No matter who we are, we all have to face the consequences of our actions. Well, most of us do anyway. In a 2008 article, The Onion set up the tragic story of a young man who nearly faces the horrors of being held accountable for an accident he caused when driving drunk. Except he doesn't because he's rich. Tragically, a similar scenario took place just 5 years later. In 2013, 16-year-old Ethan Couch hit the roads after drinking and partying, killing 4 people and injuring 10 others. His wrist-slap sentence, thanks to his expensive legal team's defense, made the Onion article more like coverage of the trial than the satire it was supposed to be.
It's illegal.
I'm only 12. I can't be held legally responsible.
Good point.
In 1998, anyone trying to catch a live broadcast on the web was treated to a painfully long wait and frequent buffer times. Only satirical news sources like The Onion joked futuristically about the revolutionary move of watching television on a computer instead of a TV screen. Now it's basically standard to refer to watching videos on the computer as watching TV.
Where's the TV?
I watch on my computer.
What do you mean you watch on your computer?
You're so old.
Americans are often said to have a love affair with their cars, especially in commercials created by auto manufacturers. In 2015, The Onion published an amusing news flash about a Massachusetts family that took their vehicular affections to the extreme by bringing their cars into the house during a storm. Not to be outdone by fiction, reality followed suit in 2016.
A woman in Florida taking drastic measures to keep her car safe as the hurricane heads her way. She actually parked her Toyota in her living room.
Fearful of the destructive force of Hurricane Matthew, a Florida woman and her fiancé took drastic action to protect her sedan by bringing it straight into the house.
There's a car in the kitchen. There is?
Ever since Carrie saw publication in 1974, Stephen King has been the undisputed king of horror. With dozens of novels, collections, and film adaptations floating around, the terror maestro has also become the butt of a few jokes. Back in 1999, The Onion ran a column where Mr. King claims to have absolutely no recollection about writing his novel, The Tommyknockers. While The Onion was wrong about the specific novel, King would admit in his book On Writing to have almost no memory of crafting his dog attack classic Cujo. Instead of author burnout, King's lack of memory was the result of a serious drug and alcohol problem. It's always a bit of a shock when researchers discover new species, especially if that species is delicious. In their 2005 article, The Onion wrote a satirical discovery of a new, delicious species of monkey. As you might expect, the joke turned out to be disturbingly accurate. In 2010, National Geographic published a report detailing the unveiling of a previously undocumented snub-nosed monkey. Sadly, this new critter was already on the endangered list when scientists classified it, due in part to the local demand for meat.
Dessert.